You may think manipulation is obvious. The word manipulation might make you imagine a pushy salesperson, your toxic ex-girlfriend or boyfriend yelling, or a politician making wild promises. That is not the dangerous type. The dangerous type is when someone steers your choices while you feel calm, rational, and free. You sign, you agree, you comply, and you walk away believing it was your decision. Dark psychology is not about making you do something against your will. It is about shaping what your will even is before you notice anything is off. Influence in self-help sounds friendly. It talks about win-win, charisma, persuasion, confidence. It treats your mind as a partner. Dark psychology treats your mind as a system to be hacked. It studies how far control can go before your awareness wakes up and resists. That edge is where the power is. If someone pushes too hard, your defenses rise and you say no. If they stay just under that line, you barely feel a thing. You just keep agreeing. Chapter 1. How dark psychology really controls you, not just influences you. Your mind runs on two systems. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman called them System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast, emotional, automatic. It drives most of your daily behavior. It jumps to conclusions, fills in gaps, and runs on habit. System 2 is slow, logical, effortful. It can analyze, question, and stop you from doing something stupid. Dark psychology targets System 1. It feeds your automatic brain the right cues so your slow brain never gets fully involved. You feel like you are choosing, but most of the work was already done under the surface. System 1 is full of shortcuts called cognitive biases. You avoid losses more than you chase gains. You follow authority figures more than strangers. You want to appear consistent with what you did yesterday. You trust people who seem similar to you. You fear social rejection more than logical risk. These are not flaws, they came from evolution. In a dangerous world, fast reactions kept your ancestors alive, but those same shortcuts are now attack points. If someone knows where they are, they can pull them. They do not need to overpower you. They just need to tilt your automatic reactions. Your emotions are another weak spot. Emotion is not separate from thinking. It controls what you notice, what you ignore, and what you decide. When you are afraid, you see more danger. When you feel ashamed, you doubt your judgment. When you feel flattered, you trust too quickly. Emotional hijacking happens when someone triggers a strong feeling, then quietly directs where that feeling points. You are not just angry. You are now angry at yourself. You are not just afraid. You are now afraid of losing them, or the deal, or your status. Once your emotional state is tilted, your rational brain spends its energy justifying what you already feel, not questioning who caused it. The last layer is identity. You are not just protecting your comfort. You are protecting the story you tell yourself about who you are. You want to see yourself as kind, loyal, smart, brave, independent. When someone knows this, they do not argue with your logic. They pressure your identity. They hint that saying no would mean you are selfish, ungrateful, weak, or scared. They remind you of your past actions and tie them to a label. You are the reliable one, the forgiving one, the committed one. Your need to protect that identity can override your need to protect your boundaries. Psychology research has shown just how extreme this can get. In the 1960s, Stanley Milgram ran an experiment that would never be approved today. Participants were told they were part of a learning study. They sat in front of a machine with switches labeled with increasing voltage. On the other side of the wall, an actor played the role of a learner. Every time the learner made a mistake, the participant had to deliver a shock. With each mistake, the shock level rose. The learner screamed, begged, and eventually went silent. An authority figure in a lab coat calmly told the participant to continue. No threats, no shouting. Just steady, firm phrases like, "The experiment requires that you continue." Most participants kept going far beyond what they thought was safe. Many went all the way to the maximum voltage, even while sweating, shaking, and showing clear distress. Why? Because an authority figure framed it as necessary. Their identity as a good participant who follows instructions became more important than the stranger's pain. Their need to appear consistent with their earlier compliance kept them moving. Their own moral alarm was there, but it got overridden by the situation. The Stanford prison experiment, although flawed and overhyped, revealed a similar pattern. Volunteers were randomly assigned roles as guards or prisoners in a simulated prison. No one was forced to be cruel, but once the roles and environment were set, many guards started showing abusive behavior shockingly fast. They were not monsters before they stepped in. The situation gave them a story. You are the authority. They are beneath you. Your job is to control them. Their identity shifted to match the role, and their behavior followed. These famous studies are disturbing, not just because of what the participants did, but because of who they were: regular people, not criminals, not villains. People like you, who believed they were in control of themselves. The truth is harsh. Your sense of being a free, independent thinker is much easier to tilt than you would like to admit. The right authority, the right frame, the right gradual steps, and your line in the sand moves. This is where the idea of covert override comes in. Overt persuasion is obvious. Someone debates you, convinces you with reasons, or pressures you directly. Your guard goes up, and you can say no. Covert override is different. It works by shaping your environment, your emotions, your identity, and your expectations so that the decision you make feels natural. You are not bullied into agreement. You slide into it. Dark psychology uses specific tools to do this, synchronizing with your body and voice so your nervous system starts to follow their lead, turning a neutral situation into a fear of losing something, so your brain becomes desperate to avoid that loss, naming your emotions for you in a way that serves them, while calming your resistance, throwing in meaningless reasons with the word because, so your automatic brain treats the request as justified, getting you to say yes to tiny things, then using your need to appear consistent to pull you into bigger commitments you would have refused at the start. None of this feels like being manipulated. That is the whole point. When a skilled operator uses these levers, you feel seen, understood, and strangely comfortable saying yes. You tell yourself stories after the fact. I just had a good feeling about it. I did not want to miss the chance. I guess I overreacted. They were right. You do not remember the structure of the interaction. You remember the story your brain wrote to defend your choice. Once you understand this, you will start seeing it everywhere. In sales calls where the rep speaks at your pace, mirrors your concerns, and then gently nudges you into urgency. In relationships where your partner defines your reactions for you and makes you doubt your own anger. In political messages where you are not told what you gain, but what horrifying loss will happen if you do not comply. In social media where scarcity, fear of missing out, and identity badges push you into habits and beliefs that do not feel chosen. There is a moral knife edge here. When you see these levers, you cannot unsee them. Some people will use this knowledge to protect themselves. Others will use it to gain quiet control. The truth is, these methods are already being used on you by people and systems who study this for a living. Marketers, negotiators, cult leaders, abusive partners, high-level sales teams, they count on your ignorance. They hide behind friendly language and talk about value and connection while running scripts tested in labs. You live in a world where control is subtle, data-driven, and emotion-based. If you do not understand how your own mind can be led, your only defense is hoping others decide to be kind. That is not a strategy. The rest of this script pulls apart 5 of these mechanisms and shows exactly how they work, how someone can sync your nervous system, trigger your fear of loss, define your emotions, slip past your resistance with empty reasons, and slowly rewrite who you think you are. After that, when someone tries to pull these on you, it will not feel like a friendly conversation anymore. It will feel like what it actually is, an attempt to reach past your awareness and take the wheel. Chapter 2: Pacing and Leading. Nervous system hijacking. Control does not always start with words. It often starts before anything is said, in the rhythm of your breathing, the angle of your body, the speed of your voice. Pacing and leading is a method that takes advantage of how your nervous system reacts to similarity. Your brain is wired to lower its guard around people who seem like you. Same posture, same tone, same emotional state. When someone mirrors you correctly, your body reads them as safe. Once that safety is in place, they shift first, and your system follows without you noticing. Researchers have studied something called interpersonal synchrony. When people walk together and their steps fall into the same rhythm, they later report more trust and liking. When someone subtly mimics your gestures or posture, you are more likely to agree with their requests, even if you do not remember them mirroring you. Brain imaging studies show that when you see someone move or express an emotion that matches yours, your own neurons fire as if you are doing it too. This is the mirror system. It creates a sense of shared state. That shared state is where pacing and leading lives. Pacing means matching the other person, not in a cartoonish way, but with quiet accuracy. A manipulator starts by adjusting to your breathing speed, your volume, your speaking pace. If you talk fast and sharp, they do too. If you are slow and soft, they slow down. If you cross your arms, they may shift so their body feels just as closed. If your legs bounce, their foot might tap. Their facial expressions stay close to yours. If you are tired, they sound tired. If you are excited, they sound excited. Your nervous system picks this up and flags them as like me and safe. It goes deeper than just copying posture. They match your emotional tone. If you are angry, they do not instantly tell you to calm down. They meet the anger with aligned energy. Yeah, that is actually messed up. If you are anxious, they do not jump straight into cheerleading. They first say something that reflects your anxiety. Makes sense that you feel on edge about this. Your brain registers, this person gets it. This person gets me. Once that sync is in place, leading begins. Leading is when they change a part of the pattern and your nervous system, already locked in with them, drifts along. For example, in an argument, a skilled manipulator paces your raised voice and quick words at first. They match your energy. Then once they feel you relaxing slightly with them, they begin to slowly lower their volume. They pause more, their shoulders drop. Instead of sharp phrases, they use longer, smoother sentences. Your body, craving harmony, adjusts to their new rhythm. Your breathing slows, your voice softens. You feel like you calm down by yourself. In reality, you were led. In sales, pacing and leading can be even quieter. The salesperson listens and copies your style. If you joke, they joke. If you are all business, they stay strict. They nod at your concerns, repeat your words back to you, and share examples that match your life. You feel comfortable, like you are talking to a version of yourself. Then they start to shift the emotional state. They add a tiny bit more urgency to their tone. They highlight a problem with just enough tension. As your body follows that rise in tension, they offer the product as the release. You feel relief when you lean towards saying yes. That relief makes the decision feel right. In seduction, pacing and leading gets even more personal. A manipulator mirrors your boundaries at first. If you are reserved, they act reserved. If you share a deep secret, they share one too. If you sit back, they sit back. The moment you lean in, they lean in. Slowly, they start shifting the pace. Slightly longer eye contact, slightly closer physical distance, slightly more intimate topics. Your system, already synced, follows. You tell yourself the connection is natural, almost magical. Behind that feeling is a method. Studies have found that when people move in sync, they become more compliant. In some experiments, participants who tapped fingers in rhythm with someone else were more likely to help that person later. When you are in sync, your sense of me versus them weakens. Your defenses relax. You stop carefully evaluating and start drifting. That drift is where leading gets its power. To defend yourself, you need to notice what your body is doing, not just what is being said. Pay attention when someone seems to match you a little too tightly, especially if you just met them. Notice if they quickly adopt your slang, your posture, your emotional tone. Ask yourself, did my mood start shifting right after theirs changed? Did my body relax only after they shifted their state first? If yes, you may not be calming down or getting excited on your own. You may be following a path someone else laid. You can also break sync on purpose. If you feel that strange pull, change something about your own rhythm. Shift your posture suddenly. Change your breathing speed. If they keep adjusting to stay matched, you just saw the pacing in real time. That alone can snap you into awareness. Take a small physical step back. Create silence. Check your own thoughts. Do I actually agree with where this is going, or do I just feel drawn along? There is also an ethical side to this tool. Pacing and leading can be used to help, not just control. A therapist might match a client's agitated state, then gently lead them into calm. A parent might match a child's excitement, then bring them down to a safer level. The difference is intent and transparency. With dark psychology, the goal is not your well-being, it is your compliance. The other person is not helping you regulate your state so you can think clearly. They are guiding your state so your thinking bends toward their goal. You will feel it most clearly in conflicts. A manipulative partner will match your frustration only long enough to get you to open up. Then they will start steering. They might lower their voice, tilt the conversation, and land you in a place where you are apologizing or doubting yourself, even if you know they crossed the line. You walk away thinking, "At least they calmed me down." In reality, they did not calm you down. They redirected you. The core truth is simple and uncomfortable. Your nervous system is not neutral in social contact. It is constantly scanning, syncing, and following. Most of the time, that helps you. It builds connection and cooperation. But it also opens a back door. If someone learns how to pace you properly, they can reach through that back door and put their hands on your steering wheel. If you do not notice it, you will swear afterward that your drive was entirely your own. Chapter 3. Loss Aversion. Weaponizing their fear of losing. Your brain is more afraid of losing something than it is excited to gain the same thing. Lose $100, and it hurts more than it feels good to win $100. This is not a small difference. Researchers Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky showed that on average, people experience losses about twice as strongly as gains of the same size. This is called loss aversion. It is a built-in survival bias. In the past, losing food, status, or safety could mean death. So your mind treats potential loss as emergency level important. Dark psychology does not try to convince you how great something is. It tries to convince you how much you are about to lose if you do not act. Same situation, different frame, very different result. Once your brain sees a choice as a possible loss, your rational analysis gets pushed aside by urgency and fear. You start thinking less about "is this a good deal?" and more about "I cannot afford to miss this." That shift is exactly what manipulators look for. Prospect theory, the model Kahneman and Tversky created, shows that people make strange decisions when facing losses. They will take bigger risks to avoid a loss than they would ever take to get a gain. In everyday life, that means you will cling to bad investments, bad jobs, and bad relationships just to avoid the feeling of loss. Dark operators know this and frame their offers and threats accordingly. Look at marketing. Scarcity is everywhere. Only 3 spots left. Offer ends tonight. Last chance before the price doubles. None of this is about how good the product is. It is about telling your brain, in bold letters, you are about to lose something if you stay still. Micro fear of missing out hooks into your social brain too. You imagine others getting ahead, getting benefits, belonging to a group you are locked out of. Suddenly, you are not buying a product. You are buying relief from a future where you regret not buying. In personal relationships, it gets darker. A toxic partner will not always threaten you directly. Instead, they will inject loss into the story of your life without them. You will never find someone who puts up with you like I do. That sends a clear message. Leave me, and you will lose comfort, tolerance, and maybe any chance at love. Or they say, everyone else would have left you by now. Now the loss is social value. You start seeing yourself as someone only they would accept. Losing them becomes tied to losing your worth. Even hostage negotiators use loss aversion. But for safety, they frame surrender not as giving up, but as avoiding a much greater loss, losing life, losing family, losing the chance to see the next day. Again, same reality, different focus. When the fear of loss is heightened, people move. Framing is simple but brutal. Take this sentence: if you buy this policy, you will gain coverage for accidents. Now flip it. If you do not buy this policy, you will be on your own when an accident happens. The facts are identical. Your brain reacts very differently. The second version presses your loss aversion. It puts you mentally in a future where you are helpless, and then points to the policy as the way out. Dark psychology stacks these frames. For example, someone selling a course might say, "Most people who ignore this stay stuck exactly where they are, watching others pass them by." That sentence quietly highlights loss of status, loss of time, and loss of progress. Then comes, "I would hate for you to miss out just because you hesitated." Now your natural caution is framed as the cause of your potential loss. If you say no, you are not being careful. You are choosing loss. The most dangerous form is when people tie loss to your identity or relationships. A manipulative boss might imply, "People who are not willing to put in extra hours usually do not last here." The real message: if you say no, you risk losing not just the job, but your identity as a loyal, ambitious person. A group or cult-like environment might say, "Leaving this community means walking away from the only people who truly understand you." They are not just threatening social loss, they are threatening loss of self. To defend yourself, you need to slow down every time you feel sudden urgency or sudden fear of missing out. When you see phrases like "last chance," "only a few left," "you will never get this again," pause. Ask yourself, if I were not afraid of losing this, would I still want it? If the offer were available next week with no countdown, would I feel the same? If the person threatening loss were not in my life, would I still believe what they are saying about my future? Reframe loss messages back into neutral or gain terms. If someone says, "You will lose your chance at success if you do not join," translate it in your mind, "This is one path among many, and I am allowed to choose others." If a partner says, "No one else will love you like I do," reframe, "They are telling me their view, not a fact about the entire world." This small mental move can lower the panic enough for your rational brain to come back online. Also, watch out for artificial time pressure. Real opportunities that are good for you rarely require blind, instant decisions. If someone refuses to give you space to think, they are not giving you a gift. They are trying to keep your mind locked in loss-focused panic long enough for you to say yes. A simple rule: the more they push urgency, the more you should slow down. Loss aversion helped your ancestors survive famine, enemies, and exile. Today it makes you buy things you do not need, stay with people who hurt you, and say yes to deals that work against you. When someone learns how to frame every choice as "lose if you do not comply," you stop choosing. You start scrambling. Under that scramble, you are easy to steer. Chapter 4: Emotional Labeling and the Power of Because, Framing Feelings, Disarming Resistance. You think you decide how you feel. In reality, whoever names your feeling first has a huge advantage. Emotional labeling is simple. Someone says, "You seem frustrated," or "You are just insecure," or "You are scared of change." Once that label lands, your brain starts to process your state through that word. Research by psychologist Matthew Lieberman and others has shown that putting feelings into words changes brain activity. The amygdala, the part linked to fear and raw emotion, calms down when emotions are labeled. The thinking parts of the brain become more active. You feel a bit more in control. That is the good side. The dark side is this: if someone else chooses the label, they also choose the frame. If you accept their label, you begin to live inside their story about you. You go from "I am angry because they crossed my line" to "maybe I am overreacting because I am insecure." The event did not change. The emotion label did. That small shift can flip your reality. In a conflict, a manipulative person will rarely say, "You are right to be angry." Instead, they label your emotion as something weak or flawed. "You are being dramatic." "You are paranoid." "You are just tired." If you take that in, your mind starts searching for reasons to match the label. You go from defending your boundary to defending your sanity. You ask yourself, am I paranoid? Am I tired? Meanwhile, the original issue gets blurred. In negotiations, emotional labeling can be used to steer decisions. A skilled negotiator might say, "You are worried about looking bad in front of your team." Maybe that was not your main concern, but now your brain starts to feel that worry more clearly. Then they shape the solution around that. Sign this now and you will look decisive. Your emotions were just framed, and your decision follows the frame. Now add another tool, the word because. Social psychologist Robert Cialdini and others studied how people respond to requests with and without reasons. In one classic experiment, people waiting to use a photocopier were more likely to let someone cut in line if that person gave a reason. The twist was that even a weak or meaningless reason worked. "Can I use the copier because I need to make some copies?" still boosted compliance. The word because triggers an automatic script in your brain. Reason given equals request more acceptable. Dark psychology combines emotional labeling and because to slide past resistance. First, define how the other person feels in a way that suits your goal. Then attach a request with a because that fits that frame. For example, you are stressed about falling behind, so just join this program now because it will give you peace of mind. Or you are scared of being alone, so stay with me because you know what life is like without me. The emotion is labeled. The solution is hooked to that label. The because makes it sound logical, even if the reason is vague. In fights, this looks like, "You are just scared to commit. That is why you are making problems. So stop overthinking and just agree, because you know I am right for you." Your original issue gets rewritten as fear. If you argue, you sound like you are defending your fear. The because glues the action they want to the emotion they chose for you. Another common move is to downgrade your legitimate concerns into softer labels. You say, "I am angry that you lied." They say, "You are just a bit sensitive, and you are reacting like this because you had a rough day." If you accept sensitive and rough day, your mind tries to match the story. Maybe I am just tired. Maybe I am too sensitive. In the process, their lie fades into the background. To protect yourself, you must treat every outside label of your emotions as a claim, not a fact. When someone says you are insecure, pause internally and ask, do I agree with that word, or are they trying to shrink my reaction? Separate what you feel from what they call it. You can think, I feel angry. They are calling it insecurity. Those are not the same thing. You are allowed to reject their label. You also need to slow down every because. When you hear it, do not assume the reason is valid. Act as if a small alarm just went off. Inspect the reason. Is it specific, clear, and real? Or is it just covering an emotional push? Do this because it will make you feel better. Is not a real reason unless you already agree with everything behind it. Sign this because spots are limited. Only matters if the underlying offer is good for you. Ask yourself, if they remove the word because, would I still agree? If the answer is no, then the because is only there to bypass your guard, not to inform your choice. Sometimes the most powerful move is to label your own emotions before anyone else does. In a heated moment, you can say in your head, I feel angry because my boundary was crossed. I feel anxious because this decision matters. When you do that, you get the calming effect of labeling while keeping control of the frame. It becomes much harder for someone else to come in and overwrite it with, you are just jealous, or you are just scared. Emotional labeling and the because effect sound harmless. They are not. Together, they let someone reach into your inner world, name what you feel, and then sell you the action that fits their version of you. If you do not notice it, you will walk away from arguments and deals thinking, they helped me understand myself. Maybe they did. Or maybe they wrote a story for you and you agreed to live in it. Chapter 5. Foot in the door. Rewriting their identity. One yes at a time. Control rarely starts with a huge demand. It starts with something so small you would feel silly saying no. A quick favor. A harmless form. A tiny change. You agree, because why not? Then, later, a slightly bigger request comes. You agree again. By the time the real ask shows up, you are already deep in. Saying no now would mean admitting to yourself that your past yeses were mistakes, so you keep going. This is the foot in the door technique, and it reaches straight into your identity. In the 1960s, psychologists Jonathan Friedman and Scott Fraser ran a famous study. They first asked homeowners to put a small, neat sign in their window about safe driving. Many people agreed. A short time later, they came back and asked those same people to put a huge, ugly sign in their yard saying, "Drive carefully." The sign was so large it blocked the view of the house. Strangers who had never been asked anything before mostly said no to the huge sign. But people who had agreed to the small window sign were far more likely to say yes to the big, ugly one. Why? Because once they agreed to the small sign, their brain updated its story. I am the kind of person who supports safe driving. The second request tested that identity. Saying no now would clash with that self-image. To avoid that inner conflict, many people said yes. They were not just being consistent for others, they were being consistent for themselves. This is self-perception at work. You watch your own behavior and draw conclusions about who you are. Help a stranger once, and your mind quietly notes, maybe I am generous. Lie in a small way, and your mind notes, maybe I am the kind of person who bends rules. These identity stories then shape future behavior. You do not want to feel fake, so you act in ways that match the story, even when it hurts you. Dark psychology uses this need for inner consistency to build control in stages. A manipulator will not ask you to betray your values on day one. They will start with something tiny and easy to justify. Maybe they ask for a small favor at work. Can you stay 10 minutes late this week to help with this quick task? You say yes. Next time, it is 30 minutes. Next month, it is unpaid weekends. When you hesitate, they say, "You have always been so reliable, I know I can count on you." They are using your past actions as proof of your identity. Saying no now feels like betraying who you are. In relationships, this often looks like gradual tests. At first, they ask you to overlook a small disrespect. Then they ask you to cut contact with a friend they do not like. Then they ask you to share private details. Then they ask you to lie for them. Each step seems only slightly more intense than the last. You tell yourself, I already forgave them before, I already did this much. I guess this is just what our relationship is like. Your brain builds a story of you as someone who sticks it out. That story becomes the trap. Milgram's obedience experiment relied on this same principle in a darker way. Participants did not start by giving maximum shocks. They started low, at levels that felt safe. The authority figure asked them to increase the voltage just a bit each time. Each step was not that much worse than the last. What kept them going was not sudden cruelty. It was gradual commitment. They had already gone this far. Stopping later would mean facing what they had done. Continuing allowed them to avoid that painful realization. In cult-like groups, the pattern is very clear. At first, it is just attending a meeting. Then it is reading a booklet. Then it is joining a small activity. Then it is giving a little money. Then a little more. Then it is cutting off critics. Then it is accepting special rules. At each stage, leaders use your previous yeses to define you. You are clearly dedicated. You are not like those who left. You begin to see leaving not as a normal choice, but as betraying your own character. Foot in the door works on you because your brain hates internal conflict. If you say, I am an honest person, but you lie, you feel unsettled. So you either stop lying or you adjust the story. I am honest, except when it is necessary. Step by step, you can reshape your identity around worse and worse behavior, as long as each step is small enough to explain away. To use this effect on yourself in a healthy way, you can flip the script. Start with tiny actions that match the identity you want. If you want to see yourself as disciplined, do one small disciplined act every day, no matter how minor. Your brain will update. I am someone who shows up. Bigger actions will become easier because they feel consistent. That is the ethical side. To defend against dark use, you need to track escalation. Do not look at each request in isolation. Look at the pattern. Ask, are the requests getting bigger? Is my time, money, or moral comfort being stretched more and more? Do they use my past compliance as a weapon? Listen for lines like, After everything I have done for you, or you have always been there for me. These phrases try to lock you into your old behavior. Set hard lines in advance, before you are emotionally involved. Decide what you will not do for a job, a partner, a group. Not just the big things, but the middle steps too. For example, I will not lie for my boss. I will not cut off my entire support network for a partner. I will not invest money I cannot afford to lose, no matter how many small investments I made before. When the pressure comes, those preset lines give your rational brain something to hold on to. Also, refuse to let past small actions define your future without your conscious choice. You are not a slave to your previous yeses. You are allowed to say, I agreed then because it felt right. It does not feel right now, or I helped before. That does not obligate me forever. Breaking the chain can feel like tearing at your identity, but that discomfort is not proof you are wrong. It is just the sensation of your brain trying to keep its old story. The harsh truth is that no one wakes up belonging to a cult, stuck in a toxic job, or trapped in a humiliating relationship after a single choice. They arrived there through a path of small, logical, easy-to-explain steps. Each yes changed how they saw themselves, and that new identity pulled them deeper. Foot in the door is not just about getting you to agree. It is about rewriting who you think you are, one small decision at a time. Once you see this mechanism, it becomes harder for others to quietly recruit your identity to their agenda. You start catching the first small step and asking, if I say yes now, what story about myself am I building, and who benefits from that story in the end?